Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. The meeting will be starting shortly. While we wait, let's learn more about Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Bi-Weekly Report with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
Good evening. As the hour is 6:45 p.m., I will call the Exeter Select Board meeting of June 12, 2023 to order. Before I introduce the board, we do have a quick board interview down in the wheelwright room. So we will be moving down there for about 10 minutes, at which point we'll return and get right into our agenda. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanne.
For this year's celebration of Arbor Day, students of Lincoln Street Elementary School embarked on a hands-on learning journey by planting 2 new trees on their school grounds. The event kicked off with the students showcasing their favorite tree-themed poetry, facts, and drawings.
Some have been granted the wish of life. Trees around the world, told they don't matter.
Delicately, the willow blooms, and pines rehearse new speeches.
Widdershins turned eyes, sing it low, watching the wild birds come and go.
Following that, Select Board member Dan Chartrand read an Arbor Day proclamation from the board.
And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife.
Now it was time for planting. The students got down to business, shoveling soil, playing in the mud, and learning valuable lessons on how to nurture a tree. We took a moment to speak with the students. We asked about their love of trees, their feelings on playing in mud, and their suggestions on what to name their 2 new tree friends.
This event is important because it shows how much the council cares about our environment, and we love doing fun projects like this to help the environment. And this event it's something fun to help our community because last year we had to cut down a tree because it got struck by something, lightning or something. So we lost a tree in our community, so now we have 2 new ones, which is great for the community. Trees are really important for oxygen because otherwise we can't breathe. Like unless we want to go turn into, I don't know, the Lorax movie, Pay for Air, sure, get rid of all the trees. No, we need trees. Like, it's really good to have. Well, I feel like they're really important for that, yes, and to get money. That's also why we need force. It makes oxygen, which makes water. Wait, does oxygen make water? No, it doesn't.
Okay, good evening again, and welcome to the Exeter Select Board meeting of June 12, 2023. The board was downstairs conducting a board interview with an applicant. So good evening, Exeter. Good evening to my colleagues on the board, respective town staff, and those in attendance, certainly those watching us at home. I'd like to start by introducing the board. To my right, Selectman Dan Chartrand. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Our Vice Chair, Selectwoman Molly Cohen. Good evening.
Hi, everyone.
Our Clerk, Selectwoman Julie Gilman. Good evening.
Good evening.
And Selectwoman Nancy Belanger. Good evening.
Good evening.
And with us this evening is the Assistant Town Manager, Melissa Roy, filling in for Mr. Dean, and our Recording Secretary, Joanna Bartel. Good evening. My name is Nico Papakostandis, and we'll start by offering public comment to anybody in the audience that would like to come up and make a comment to the Select Board. We do ask that if your comments are relative to an agenda item, you wait for that agenda item to come up, but I'll pause for a moment. And
I do have some.
please, sir.
Thank you.
And if,
Come to the podium.
please. And if you could just state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jaime Lopez. Many of you know me as Jamie. I own the Inn by the Bandstand at 6 Front Street, your neighbor next door.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'd like to bring up a couple of issues that I deem are very important, one more important than the other, and I'd like to ask you a question. How many of you here, or those watching at home, I believe we're being televised, right?
Correct.
Should have dressed properly. Know about falling tiles off of this room, off of this building?
I was not aware.
None
So
of you.
do we know anything?
This is the first time.
Okay.
Okay. And how many of you come in and out of the building from the back?
I do.
How many of you have noticed that the back is in a state of need of some maintenance? You? Okay.
Specific. Can you tell me specifically where?
So I'll start with the first issue, which I think it's the most important. Mm-hmm. The other one is more. It's more of a it would be nice, whereas the first one I think it's a must. We have known about falling tiles from this building for several years, but since this winter, I've noticed a lot of tiles falling more and more, and I feel that's presenting a danger to our community, especially those who live here, and many of the town residents park in the town municipal lot, and then they walk through our common area between 10 Front Street and 6 Front Street, our building, and come through the front door to make payments or whatnot. And I feel that presents just a danger, and I think it's a huge accident waiting to happen. I have brought this up to your attention multiple times, and I didn't think I would find myself before you this evening to escalate the importance of this issue. I have brought it up to the attention of the town manager's office. The first time we brought it up was last year. Unfortunately, there's no written record. And then this March, when snow was starting to melt, I was noticing icicles and pieces of tiles on the floor, on the parking lot. So I think that just needs to be addressed as soon as possible. I don't think it's a personal issue. I think it's more of a safety issue for our community. And then I went away for part of the month of March and part of the month of April. And when I came back, I noticed some orange cones lining this side of the building. And I thought, oh, good, they're doing something about it. I got all excited. And the cones remained there until late April, I believe. And then you remove the cones, and nothing ever happened. So I'm wondering who knows about it and what and when we're going to remove the tiles. I'm not asking to do a whole job. The roof, I know it's expensive. My request is to make it safe and simply go up and inspect and remove the loose tiles. That's it. Just remove the loose tiles.
So if I could just ask a question, Mr. Chair. Mm-hmm. So, Jamie, when you said tiles, are you talking about the roofing material?
The slate tiles.
So,
I think you have a slate roof, right? That's what I meant by.
Okay, so there's slate pieces falling off.
Yes, and I have pictures to show you.
You don't need to show us those.
So,
I appreciate you making us aware of this.
Yeah.
So, and when you said there was no written record, we believe you contacted the town manager's office. I have no reason to doubt that. This is the first time the board is hearing of this, so we will take immediate action to investigate. And I'll look to Ms. Roy to call Public Works tomorrow morning.
Absolutely.
And we will immediately look into this. And we appreciate you coming forward to let us know.
Thank you. I didn't really want to do this, but I feel
Thank you for doing it. We appreciate
feel
it.
that's the way to. Anyway.
Yeah, your form is perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you very much. On your way out, if you'd like to look up, you'll see 5 or 3 between 3 and 5 that are about this far off the roof, ready to just,
Oh my God.
I believe, tip over.
We'll check it out.
Not good.
No.
And then my other concern, it's only a suggestion given that it is a public building, and that's the one of the snow plow. I think did such a great job plowing your parking lot, but it did a terrible job leaving the broken pavers in the back to a point where you cannot put the meeting tables and chairs where it goes in the corner, and now that's in the parking lot. And unfortunately for us, the Inn by the Bandstand, that is our only way to come in and out, and our patrons are in. We're selling a luxury product, and I feel that the back needs just to be raked up, cleaned up, and most importantly, that chair with the tables there, I feel that presents a challenge for us who don't have a way to turn around in our parking lot. So many times our patrons or myself have to back out and into the tail and then go out, or otherwise take a chance and back all the way out to where the dumpsters are, which is a long way to do that. And so before we could turn around very easily, but now we have the chair and the table, the chairs and the table, and sometimes we have extra cars parked where they're not supposed to park, which is fine. I mean, who cares, right? It's just that we can't turn around.
Actually witnessed that on Friday. And somebody was trying to come in and was a little freaked by how they had to take a turn into your lot and started backing out. And then had somebody behind them who also wanted to go park in your spot. So it was a traffic jam was backing up.
I feel that this other one, it could be easily addressed by evening out to even out the pavers and take out what's not good anymore. It's broken. It's a bit of a mess back there. Make that even. Put the furniture where it belongs, and then maybe give it some love back there. Rake it up, all the dead leaves and all, because our clients have to come through that door.
Yeah.
And
So
I
it's a
feel
good
that
impression.
first impressions with the inn, it's a little challenging for us. And I've been meaning to say this in the nicest way possible, but I don't see any results. So I'm here before you.
Can I respond again?
Please.
We'll take a look at that as well. You are a taxpayer, and you're well within your rights to ask for the full use of your property.
Thank you very much.
Taxes.
That's why I felt I could be here.
Yeah.
Because of that very reason.
Jamie, this is all perfectly normal, and you've done a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the town manager's office will get back to you. We'll look into that.
Thank you.
Starting tomorrow, and somebody will get back to you by
Thank
the
you.
end of the week.
I did send this email to Mr. Dean and to Mr. Bison. I think Mr. Bison,
He's the Parks and Rec director.
Hoping to get somewhere, but they're probably discussing it, or they don't have an answer, or I don't know what. But
Well, you've escalated it to the select board.
Do you need this, or do you not want it at
We
this
can
point?
give it, if you can give it to Ms. Roy. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I did attach 8 pictures that I couldn't print out, but you don't need it because you live here.
Thank you.
Jamie, do we have contact information for you?
Yes.
Thank you.
I can also say the reason the table was put there was because in the other location, it was right up against the condensers from the air conditioning. So it was incredibly loud when we would try to sit out there. It doesn't mean that we can't discuss or figure things out, but that is why it was moved where it was to where it is, because it was actually blowing hot air, and it was very loud, so it wasn't
Your points across.
it wasn't peaceful, but we'll look into it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And we look online, there's nobody on the Zoom, so there's no other public comment. We don't have any proclamations or recognitions this evening. I would ask the board for approval of the minutes to be reviewed. First, ask if there are any revisions or amendments to the meeting minutes of June 9th, 2023. Okay. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the Exeter Select Board regular meeting minutes of June 5th, 2023.
Wait,
Yes.
before we vote, I did have a comment. Under the non-public session, when we came out of it, we also made a motion to seal the minutes.
So you want to amend?
Yes, I would like
Okay.
to amend the motion that I believe Mr. Chartrand made a motion to seal the minutes for an
He did.
indefinite period of time.
Definitely, that's correct.
And I don't remember who seconded it.
Selectwoman Belanger seconded. Joanna, did you get that? Okay, thank you.
And it was unanimous.
It was 5-0.
So I move to accept the Select Board meeting minutes for June 5th, 2023 as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. We interviewed Danielle Capalbo downstairs at 6:45. Danielle submitted an application for an alternate position on both the Arts and Culture Advisory and the Rec Advisory Committee respectively. I'll start with the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee. I would entertain a motion to appoint Danielle Capalbo to the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee as an alternate with a term to expire April of 2025.
So moved.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And I would entertain a motion to appoint Danielle Capalbo to the Recreation Advisory Committee as an alternate for a term to expire in April 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes, and we thank Ms. Capalbo again for volunteering on those two committees. Jumping into our action items, we have two this evening. This is sort of a swing meeting. We met last week, and we have some other work to do later, but Mr. Stevens, if you wanted to introduce the bond documents, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Corey Stevens, Finance Director. So you have a memo in your packet this week from me to you and Mr. Dean regarding the bond process. We're in the process of wrapping up our application and going out to bond. Just for summary, we're going out to bond for $9.245 million, solar array for $5.2 million, West Side Drive for $2.3 million, intersection improvements for $798,000, groundwater exploration continuation for $500,000, and then some sewer equipment replacement for $400,000. Bonds this year carry a maximum interest rate of 4.25%, which is up a quarter from 2022. Bond sale is slated for July 12th, and we expect to receive our bond proceeds in August. So on the docket this evening for you folks is to read through the certificate of vote and particularly the resolutions. If you wanted to pare it down, I think that's what you'll be voting on. And then I will take it from there after you're done.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, I believe, as we did last year, if you read the certificate of vote at 2 pages.
Yes, and I do want to ask the Finance Director where it says I the clerk, is it I the clerk or Andy Kohler the clerk?
I might suggest that you could probably jump down to the first resolution and say, we as a board resolve, and kind of move on from there. Because what you're voting on, as you all know, are these resolutions. So, this is really from the perspective of the clerk, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then there's a motion, I think, in the memo, if you want to use that when you get to that point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. It says, I further certify that there are no vacancies on the board, that all board members of the board were duly notified of the time, place, and purpose of said meeting, including as one of the purposes the authorization of bonds and the approval of loan agreements between the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank, the bond bank, and the issuer. I further certified that the following is a true copy of resolutions unanimously adopted at said meeting. Resolved that under and pursuant to the Municipal Finance Act, Chapter 33, New Hampshire RSA, as amended, the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank Law, Chapter 35-A, New Hampshire RSA, as amended, and other laws in addition thereto, and to votes of the issuer duly adopted on March 9th, 2021, under Article 4, and on March 14th, 2023, under Articles 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8 of the warrants for such annual meetings of the issuer, there be and hereby is authorized the issuance of $9,245,274 bond of the issuer, and these are called the bonds, which is being issued by the issuer for the purposes of financing 1, the construction of a solar array on the town-owned land described as map 98, lot 3, and tax map 100, lot 4, for $5,227,724. Sorry, I said that wrong. $5,227,724. And 2, the construction of a water, sewer, and drainage improvements in the West Side Drive area at $2,320,000. 3, intersection improvements to the Pine Street, Linden Street, and Front Street intersections for $798,000. 4, continuing efforts to develop groundwater sources in the town for $500,000. And 5, the replacement of aged equipment at the Court Street Sewer Pump Station at $400,000. The bonds shall be dated as of their date of issuance, shall be in such numbers and denomination as the purchaser shall request, shall mature in accordance with the schedule set forth in Exhibit A to the loan agreement, hereinafter described as the loan agreement, shall bear a net interest cost and rate as defined in the loan agreement of 4.25%, 4.25% per annum, or such lesser amounts as may be determined by a majority of the board. The bond shall be substantially in the form set forth in Exhibit B to the loan agreement, and otherwise shall be issued in such manner and form as the signatories shall approve by their execution thereof. Resolved that the bond shall be sold to the bond bank at the par value thereof plus any applicable premium. Resolved that in order to evidence the sale of the bonds, the treasurer of the issuer and a member of the board are authorized and directed to execute, attest, and deliver in the name and on behalf of the issuer a loan agreement in substantially the form submitted to this meeting, which loan agreement hereby approved with such changes therein not inconsistent with this vote and approved by the officers executing the same on behalf of the issuer. The approval of such changes by said officers shall be conclusively evidenced by the execution of the loan agreement by such officers. Resolved that all things heretofore done and all action heretofore taken by the issuer and its officers and agents in its authorization of the projects to be financed by the bonds are hereby ratified, approved, and confirmed. Resolved that the clerk and the signers of the bonds are each hereby authorized to take any action and take any and all action necessary and convenient to carry out the provisions of this note, including delivering the bonds against payment therefor. Resolved that the useful life of the projects being financed are in excess of 12, 15, and 20 years. I further certify that said meeting was open to the public. The aforesaid vote was not taken by secret ballot nor in executive session. That notice of the time and place of said meeting was posted in at least 2 appropriate public places within the territorial limits of the issuer, or published in a newspaper of general circulation in said area, at least 24 hours, excluding Sundays and legal holidays, before said meeting. That no deliberations or actions with respect to the vote were taken in executive session, and that the minutes of said meeting have been promptly recorded and have been or will be made open to inspection within 144 hours of said meeting, all in accordance with Chapter 91A, New Hampshire RSA, as amended. I further certify that above vote has not been amended or rescinded and remains in full force and effect as of this date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Stevens, do we want to include the total amount of the loan in the motion?
Oh.
I don't believe you need to.
Okay.
Could I point out one clerical error? On page 1, the first big paragraph, resolved, the 400,000 is missing a 0.
Yes. At the bottom of the pump station.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other revisions, comments, or questions? Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to adopt the resolution set forth in the authorization of bonds and approval of a loan agreement with the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank.
As amended, or as corrected?
As corrected.
So moved.
Second.
So motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. And Ms. Roy, you have a Squamscott sewer siphons update.
I do. So we heard from the drillers today, and they have made it 500 feet as part of the first reaming process, which is taking the 6-inch pilot hole and expanding it to 12. So that's very exciting. They're over the halfway point, and at this point, there have not been fluid releases in the reaming process. So
wonderful.
We'll keep fingers crossed and keep going. So
terrific.
Thank you.
That's great news.
Yeah.
That's great news. Any word on the court date is still set?
It's still set for June 22nd.
Okay. Great. June 22nd, you said?
I believe it. I don't have it right in front of me, but I'm 99% sure it's June 22nd at 10 a.m.
Terrific.
And this is the court date to get permission to do the special town meeting?
That is correct. And if permission is granted by the court, the deliberative session would be July 11th, and the election would be August 15th. Okay, great. Thank you.
June 11th will be at night if anyone's keeping track at home. It'll be at night deliberative session.
Correct. Ms. Roy, if you could thank Mr. Velasic and the team for them.
Sure, absolutely.
We miss him, but we appreciate your update.
Absolutely.
Those are our two discussion items for this evening. Moving into regular business, we don't have any abatements, credits, or exemptions. We do have one approval for the board to consider this evening. We have a memo in our packet to the select board, as well as to Mr. Dean, from Assistant Town Manager Melissa Roy. I'll set this up by saying that one of the goals and initiatives set by the select board at our goal-setting session in April was long-term succession planning and just an overall review of the organization as we move forward. At that time, the town manager and assistant town manager were tasked with finding the resources to move ahead with this. Ms. Roy's memo speaks for itself, but I'll let you comment to how you and Mr. Dean have come up with appropriating the funds for this.
Sure. So as you know, we've had quite a few positions that have been vacant for the first 6 months of the year in DPW. And so it is our recommendation that we utilize some of that savings and put it towards this evaluation of function for the town.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Please.
I am wholeheartedly in favor of this. That's it.
Thank you.
I would also add I will concur with my good friend here, and also say, one of the things that we've struggled, and I think we're struggling in public service, in the public sector, is there is a lack of people to fill these jobs. What is the succession planning? What are, if we have vacancies in the major department heads and, key functions of government, makes a lot of sense to have some sort of planning process that we have in place so that we're not caught flat-footed if they're, because we have retirements coming up and we have, things that we can sort of see and we want to be prepared for. So I would agree with you. I wholeheartedly endorse this. I think it's a good way to spend some of the money that we're having trouble filling the position.
Thank you.
I concur with what they both said, so I don't need to repeat it.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I look back to 2019, which was the first year I had the privilege of serving on this board, and we had a retirement about a month before I began my service, and that was with Chief Shoup. And one of the first things we did as a board was identify an internal individual, that being Chief Poulin, that was promoted. And Chief Poulin shortly thereafter brought forth a plan, and he sort of had a vision as to reorganizing the police department slightly to set up that succession planning. And in fact, that was when we created the role of deputy chief. Of course, Mike Monk assumed that upon his retirement. We were fortunate to find Josh McCain, and Chief Wilking did the same with former Chief Como and set up the succession for when Chief Como retired. We had Chief Wilking ready to go, and I know Chief Wilking has been working for at a time when in the future when he feels it's time to move on, and certainly with Public Works and the water and sewer. At the time, DPW Director Perry had a vision for water sewer. She did the same thing, and the board at that time, saw fit to kind of see that, and we were fortunate there. But we've got so many other very important departments. We have very important department heads, and we have valuable employees that we need to look at our long-term plan. And we also need to identify which employees may want to succeed and maybe move to someplace else or move up or take their career plans into consideration, because there's no doubt there's a lot of talent here.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's a lot of talent.
That's a huge part of it. Thank you for bringing that up.
Mr. Stevens, the same thing. We were fortunate to find him, Ms. Roy. So I'm really proud that this board in the last couple of years have identified the talent within and promoted from within, because I really think that sets the message that we want to set.
Yeah, well, it really, and it's so, in the long term, it's so much more cost effective to do that. Like, that is the way to save money and ensure longevity and ensure a strong department. So I totally agree.
I like the fact that we have had some success with this, and we're going to double down by bringing in a consultant to help us do it even more intentionally and more effectively. So that's why I'm wholeheartedly in favor of that. Thank you for Selectwoman Cowan's more eloquent words.
And certainly you hit on something there, and it is it's far more cost effective to identify from within and train and retain rather than constantly have to recruit and replace and recruit and replace. So, it's I think it's going to be a real good return on our investment here. And, Keegan Associates put together a proposal, and I think that their area of expertise will really assist us as we move forward with this. So,
can I ask a question? Are there services that are provided through like MRI, and have we looked at those?
For succession planning like this, I have not reached out to MRI for this particular piece of it.
I would be I would be a little worried about being able to identify strengths, especially since we work with them in other capacities.
Yeah, I think it's really good for us to look at other consultants as well. MRI helps us with the assessors department and things, and so this would be completely outside of our relationships with them.
And it feels a little too close too.
They're a wonderful organization.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And we love working with them, but I do think this would be nice for somebody to come in that does not really know our organization, learn it, understand it, and see if there are efficiencies that could be found and what could be, like you said, the succession planning, identifying leadership skills and talent and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
MRI is very talented in what they do, and again, I think you highlighted some of the initiatives that we've used them for as consultants. This is not an area of strength. I agree. I think they're too close to the organization. But the other advantage with Keegan and Associates reading through the proposal is that should there be candidates that are identified for coaching or training, that's something that this organization can also offer.
Yeah.
So.
Great.
Any other questions or comments? And there is a timeline for the deliverables in this, and I think it's pretty well set. And in it, Ms. Roy, I know you've already looked at it. There are some documents that they'll need in advance.
Yes, we will get those to them right away if it's approved.
Okay, then I would entertain I would entertain a motion to appropriate up to $50,000 from money in the DPW administration salary and wages line in the budget that have not been utilized in the absence of a DPW director, assistant town engineer, or water sewer manager for the first 6 months of this year to be utilized to retain Keegan and Associates to conduct the long-term succession planning initiative.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Ms. Roy, Town Manager's report, please.
Yeah, so we've been meeting every week, so it's a little bit short. I walked through with Julie for the town hall walkthrough that we had some delegates from the state preservation office, right? I worked with Kristen and council from Mitchell Group to continue to move forward with single-use plastics, some of the edits and some of the things that came up at that meeting, and met with Paul and Jay and Steve from the DPW administrative team to discuss recruitment and retention strategies for their staff.
Thank you. I know it's only been a week since.
I know. Excuse me.
Any questions from Ms. Roy? Seeing none, we can move forward with Select Board Committee reports. Select Board Belanger.
I had a planning board meeting on June 8th. An application was approved for subdivision at 45 Pine Street into 2 lots in the back. There was an application for a site plan review for proposed reconstruction of the clubhouse at the Exeter Country Club. There is a site walk scheduled for June 12th at 8 a.m., open to the public, so please come if you have any questions or just want to walk the project with the planning board. And that application is also on the agenda for Thursday, June 22nd. There was also a preliminary conceptual review for a vehicle storage display area off of Portsmouth Ave at 127 Portsmouth Ave. And that was just to discuss it in general. Nothing was approved on that. Advisory committee, I had that Friday morning on June 9th. We went through, Janet Whitten, our assessor, gave us a report on 79E and our exemptions. I brought copies if anybody is interested because that will be coming before us again. A lot of back and forth on that discussion and trying to compare 79E value to the MUND value and one's density, one's money, and things like that. And our Economic Development Director, Darren Wenham, was there, and one of the suggestions came up was for vetting process possibly to bring before the select board to discuss individual 79E applicants. And so Darren's going to pull together a few options, few scenarios, and then bring it back to the Housing Advisory Committee just for further discussion, input, because there was a lot of back and forth, and I personally think some good came out of that. We do not have a July meeting, so hopefully that will be for our August 11th meeting. Anyway, there was that, and just bear with me. I have a Conservation Commission meeting tomorrow night, and I think that's about it. It's only been a week.
Thank you. I'm going to strategically ask you to go last for a reason.
Okay.
If I may.
If you may.
Selectman Chartrand, I know I'm very jealous that you were able to attend something that I could not due to a family commitment, so please enlighten us.
My sum total of my report is a report on attending the Arbor Day tree planting at Lincoln Street School in your stead. You had a commitment, and you were nice enough to ask me to go. Just to get it out of the way at the top, it is not true that the Lincoln Street School Student Council and I slung mud at the tree planting. We did not do that. We were well behaved. We had a great time. I read the proclamation from you.
Fantastic.
Low-fived all the student council members afterwards, and then we proceeded to plant the tree, 2 trees, a tulip tree and a sugar maple on each side of one of the rear exits at Lincoln Street School. It was a great time. The tree committee was there, chaired by Eileen Flockhart and others, and it was really such a pleasure to be there in your stead. And the only thing I'm asking in the future is that you allow me to ride shotgun.
We're always all invited. It's a good time, and they do a lot of good work, and it's nice that we get to have the students help out.
And no mudslinging.
And can I just tell you that Eileen Flockhart was at the Historical Society show and just praised. You showed up ready to work, you had gloves, you were ready to plant. So I don't know about the slinging of the mud, but I hear you were playing in the dirt. But you were playing in the dirt.
We were playing in the dirt.
Okay. Well,
but we had state employees supervising us, so we were right on target with our work.
Thank you for attending that.
It was a pleasure.
Selectwoman Cow?
I have nothing, but my son was at that. He is a member of the student council, and so he would
not.
He would have never. He would have never. He did ask me to come, and I was unfortunately in a meeting. But I saw the great work in front of those beautiful murals that are there now.
Now that you mention it, I know which one he was.
Was he slinging any mud?
No, absolutely not.
And I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Selectwoman Gilman, I know you have a few things that if you would roll into correspondence at the end and talk about SB 110, I would appreciate that.
Certainly.
Thank you.
I didn't have any meetings, but I do have one at the HDC coming up on the 22nd. It's for a revised application from the owners of the property next to the IOCA. They're making changes to what they presented to us, and that had been approved to both the front and the back. And we're going to hear about that on the 22nd. Then the rest of it is about what's been happening at the House, or what happened last week at the House. Historically, we voted to approve the Senate's version of the state budget. It's never happened that way before. We've always gone to what's called a committee of conference to have the House and the Senate members kind of duke it out over what they're going to give or not give on. And this year, the leaderships of both bodies got together and worked out the differences ahead of time. So it was very easy to just say, yes, this bill, there's some things you don't like, but for the most part, they're all things that are going to be helpful to us. And I can give you a couple of headlines. Unfortunately for the Group 2 benefits group did not get their additional money. If they hadn't been vested before 2011, there was going to be an increase in their retirement or acceptance into the retirement fund, and that did not pass. So I know some of our employees will be disappointed. One of the other things is Medicaid expansion. And the House had passed there's no sunset on the Medicaid expansion, but the compromise was to a 7-year, and then we'll look at it again.
The Senate had passed.
No, the House had passed
No, the House passed a sunset. The Senate passed, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
7 years.
It's 7 years. I thought I was there. And then another nice thing is that the people that provide Medicaid haven't had a raise in their rates for a bazillion years, and the House reduced and then restored what the House had presented, a level of $134 million more dollars, which brings Medicaid providers to modern day money, and they still will need federal money to support the work they do for folks on Medicaid. What else? The education freedom accounts, the guardrails that we tried to put on it were slightly changed. The governor had had raised the conditions of employment, of income. to a much higher rate than it had been when the accounts were first established. The House reduced it, and then the Senate, where did it go? Increased it in between. So instead of the extra 30 million, we had 10 million. It was compromised at 20 million more, but the eligibilities increased also. And Medicaid provider system of care. There's going to be a lot more money for family resources, health care funds for system of care, and also child care, some directed spending towards small 12 and under children, or children 12 and under in home daycare kind of facilities that deals with actually holidays and weekends that they'll be able to bill for that. The education, interestingly, there's a lot of discussion about the education adequacy funds, and every year it kind of gets reconfigured, and it's based on free and hot lunch, the population in your town of how many students receive a free or assisted lunch or breakfast. And this year, Exeter still gets a raise in it, so I'm happy with that. Other towns were just flat, but a lot more money is going to the towns that are needy, that we've been talking every year about that. This town needs more money to be adequate. And then there's also the question of really what is adequate. And there's those 2 court cases coming up, so we'll see what happens with those. And the housing champion program was passed with a $250,000 budget for just the setting up the administration of it. So I think I'm looking for a job. But it's also got some funding for it to go towards, it's for towns that have, to provide towns with money for infrastructure improvements and from sidewalks to water and sewer, so that we can build more affordable housing close to home, close to the center of town, to densify it, be an incentive for that. And as Senator Altschiller said last week, Exeter really was a model for adopting all of the RSAs that have made that are there to make this happen, but towns aren't taking advantage of. And I think that's it, except for, what was 110? Was it 110?
Yes, please.
Senate Bill 110 was set up for welfare departments, and the Seacoast area has been very, very good at helping each other, towns helping each other out with persons who are in a short-term emergency needing housing or food or some kind of assistance. And we've been taking on giving assistance to folks from other towns. And in Exeter, in our area, we do recompense the other town if we if we send them somebody or they somebody to us, then we get recompensed. So our welfare budget isn't out of control. But some towns don't do that. And they'll send somebody to Exeter and say, take care of this person, and that's the end. So Senate Bill 110, which I spoke on the floor, settles that and makes it actually a requirement that towns must discuss a person of interest to both towns. So if someone comes in, I need 2 nights at a hotel, I have nowhere to go, but they're from Stratham, let's say, then we'll put them up and Stratham will pay for the care. So that was very exciting.
Great, thank you. Also in our correspondence, we had an NHMA legislative bulletin, and we also had the community action report from the New Hampshire DOR Municipal and Property Division, indicating that the next required reevaluation for the town is in 2024. and their full report will be sent to MRI for their review and then forwarded to the Select Board for our records.
Oh, and
Please.
One more thing. I will be meeting on Friday with a subcommittee of the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire that deals with legislative affairs, but I am going to get the update on how much money we've saved so far, residents
be interesting.
have been able, as a whole, save, and what that money can be used for.
Look forward to that. That's interesting. Thank you. Reviewing the board calendar, we will meet again on June 26th, also July 10th, and July 24th. And as we mentioned earlier, deliberative session would be July 11th in the evening, and the election would be August 15th. Any other comments or anything from the board? And seeing none, I would entertain a motion to enter non-public, two separate items, RSA 91A 3-2A.
So moved.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
Selectman Chartrand.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Selectwoman Belanger.
Aye.
And the clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0 to enter into non-public. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.